everyone, how you doing today? I'm Kirsty, and with this video, look at the books that I have DNF'd in 2022. Without further ado, we're just going to get straight into it. And we're going to start with the books that I have technically DNF'd for now, but they're on what I call a soft DNF'd. So it means that yes, I currently have them as a DNF, but I do intend on going back to them and I do intend on finishing them. First one is directly behind me, which I don't think you can see from this angle, but it's Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. And I've just been slowly trying to make my way through this. I've finished part 1, so I think I'm about 70 or 80 pages in, and it's okay, but I know a lot of people have said that they binged it from the first page and couldn't stop reading, whereas I'm finding it's one of those books that while I'm reading it, I'm enjoying it, but as soon as I put it down, I kind of just forget it's even there. And I'm a bit like, whoopsie. I do plan on going back and I do plan on finishing it, but I think that's just going to be one that I work on throughout 2023. Next up, we have an arc that I started and I was really enjoying, but I just, again, with this one, I was making proper notes as I was going through, and I've been keeping a little journal as I go through it, and that is The Path to Kindness. It's a poetry anthology of poems all about being kind to one another, but the anthology itself I love because it has little bits through it where it asks you to stop and reflect, and I decided to turn this into an actual journal project. So at some point in 2023 you're actually going to see a video from me where I'm doing this, and I've got a little journal that I'm going to be writing in. And yeah, so there was one poem all about neighbours and being kind to your neighbours, and then the reflection on it was saying when was the last time you did something for your neighbours, or when was the last time a neighbour did something for you and how did it make you feel. And I just thought that was really lovely, that as well as this just being a collection of poems, it then also gives you prompts for you to reflect and have a chance for some personal development in there. And I've just been really loving it. So like I said, even though it's technically a DNF because I haven't finished it this year, it's one that I'm just very, very slowly working my way through. Next up we have The Raven Boys, and I started it and I'm currently 50-50 as to whether I'm going to continue it or not, but I feel like if I'd have read it 10 years ago, I probably would have loved it. But I think I will get on with it and keep going, but just for now, I'm not sure I'm in the mood for it. And it's the second time that I've done this with a Maggie Stiefvater book, so I'm wondering if it's just she's not an author that's for me. But I'm going to give it a go, and I want to give it a good chance before I make that decision. We then have another one that's behind me that is actually on my December TBR, so who knows, before the end of the year I may still get it done. But that is The Darkness Outside Us. I want to give away, I think it was Kevin from Much Ado About Books did a reading, I can't remember the name of the readathon, but he did a readathon right at the start of 2022, and I was fortunate enough that my team won and I was the winning person for getting a book, and that was the book that I chose. And I've started it, I've gotten 2/3 of the way through it, and it was another one that I just put down and haven't yet picked back up. Like I said, it is on my TBR for December for the Reindeer Readathon, so I would like to get it done. But for now, it's a soft DNF because I haven't yet picked it up, but I do fully intend on it because I was enjoying it. And then the final one for a soft DNF that I can think of off the top of my head is Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich. This is one that I got out from my local library. I started it, I then went to Yauk and got COVID, and it ended up having to go back to the library before I had a chance to finish it. And I was really enjoying it. I liked that the main character was mixed race. I liked that the female characters actually had a really good voice, and I was having a really good time with it, and I liked the ghost aspect. I thought that was quite cute. Apparently this year I've decided I really like ghost stories, or stories that involve ghosts as characters. Who would have thought? I mean, 17-year-old me watching Being Human probably should have made that connection, but didn't. And yeah, so those are the books that, like I said, I've started this year. I haven't yet finished, but I do plan on. And then, thankfully, there are only a few books that I've actually completely DNF'd this year. And the very first one of those was Crazy Rich Asians. I didn't get past the first page. As soon as I opened it, it showed the family tree. And that was overwhelming enough. But then when you start like the first couple of pages, there are so many names and people and footnotes. And I just went, no, I'm going to watch the film because it was just so much. And again, I picked it up about 4 weeks after my breakup, so I probably shouldn't have been trying to read romance at that time anyway. But no, it just didn't appeal. And I still haven't watched the film yet, so I'm just thinking that that's just one that no. So I wonder if I can even count that as a DNF, because technically I really didn't even start it. But I am counting that as a DNF. Next up we have Master of One by Jada Bennett. And oh my god, I know it's Jones. Bennett and Jones. Ugh, I will put the authors up here. Danny Jones? Danny Bennett? Jade Jones, I think. Either way, it's a spouse team, and I really, really, really wanted to read this, especially after seeing the author note where this was written while one of them was going through chemo, so their way of coping together was to write this book. And I was like, I really want to read it. But unfortunately, I just couldn't get into it. I didn't like Rags as a character. I didn't like the Faye, whatever he was, guy they brought in. And I just felt, I got about 70 pages in. No, I must have got halfway through the book, so I was about 150 pages in. And it just felt all we'd done was travel from here to here. Travel from here to here. Oh, we're travelling again. Oh, we're travelling again. And I just was like, no. I know they say that you should keep books going with action, but that doesn't necessarily mean travel, 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 travel. And I just felt there was so much time spent on talking about the travelling and not actually, for me personally, there were action scenes and there were some really good moments, but it just felt a bit flat and boring. And I stopped reading it, and every time I looked at it to pick it back up, I was just like, I don't want to. So I have DNF'd that one. It's a shame as well because it's a beautiful copy that I've got. I've got the Fairy Loot edition, and I was really excited for it. As I was told, it had Six of Crow vibes as well, which I was like, yeah, but it just didn't hit my mark. Next up, we have the Cursebreaker series by Bridget Kemmerer. I read the first book a couple of years ago and thought it was okay. It wasn't my favourite, it wasn't my least favourite. It was good. I got the second book, and then I got the third book for Christmas last year in A Secret Santa. So I was like, right, okay, I now own all 3 books. I need to read it. So I read the second book, and I really liked Gray as a character, and I'm glad the second book focused on him. But I just didn't like anybody else. And I started the third book, and I got about 50 pages in, and I was just like, And I did not like how the second book ended. It had a trope I hate in there. And I was just like, do you know what? I'm bored of this. And I have no interest or care for these characters. So I have decided I'm not going to finish the series. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm just not going to complete that one. Same with Chloe Gong's series, Our Violent Ends. I'm not a big fan of Romeo and Juliet stories anyway. I'm not really a fan of books set in like the sort of between 1900 and about 1950 for some reason. Just not kind of that 50 years, just has never interested me, especially books set in like the 20s and 30s, like with the gangs and all of that. Not my thing. But I did give These Violet Delights a go. I thought it was quite well written. I was very confused in parts about what the hell was actually going on and what the big bad thing actually was. And I think that that confusion kind of carried over to the second book, and I just found myself reading it, but my brain was just going elsewhere constantly. And in the end, I just went, why am I trying to make myself read something when clearly I don't want to be reading it? So I have decided I'm not going to finish that series. Final one, which is the most recent one, because I haven't, touch wood, I haven't had a hard DNF for about 4 months now, but the final one is I Kissed Shara Wheeler, which honestly killed me to DNF. But I didn't like feel of it. I didn't like the writing. I liked the inclusion of like the diary entries and the little notes and things like that. I thought that was quite cute. But compared to Red, White and Royal Blue and One Last Stop, this just was not at the same level at all. And I know that the other two are adult books and this was Casey's first YA, but it didn't connect well with me at all. Maybe I think the characters were a bit too young, and if this was done with adults, maybe I would have liked it more, but it just came across too juvenile for me. And I know a lot of people have compared it to Paper Towns, which is a thing I've never read or seen or watched. So maybe if I'd have seen that before, I might have appreciated this one more. But I couldn't get into it, and I just didn't like any of the characters. So I decided DNF that. Like, yeah. So that's it for DNFs. I actually had more DNFs than last year, but I think that's because I've gotten a lot better this year at going, actually, I don't want to read this, so I'm going to stop. Whereas in the past, I was like, well, I've started a book, I have to finish it. But I'm now much kinder to myself when it comes to reading, and I've stopped trying to force myself to read things because, there's more out there. And I think that's how I've managed to hit 80 books this year. Well, 85 currently. Because I've kind of stopped myself from forcing myself from reading. And in the past, I'll make myself read a book that I'm not enjoying, and then I don't want to pick anything up for weeks. Whereas now I've learned, don't read. If you're not enjoying it, stop. Let me know in the comments, what books have you DNF'd this year, if any? I hope you're all good. I hope you stay safe, and until tomorrow, bye.